All right, how is everyone doing today? Good, I hope. Today I have some notes from some classes, and they range from beginning classes to very advanced classes. First, we'll start with a beginning class. If you are more advanced, I think it's a good idea if you stay for this. You don't have to, of course. You can wait for the more advanced classes that are coming up. This will probably take about a half an hour, I guess, to go through this. But the thing that I like to make beginners practice right away is making questions and giving negative answers, because even people who have progressed in English for many years make very basic mistakes with asking questions and giving negative answers because it's confusing in English. So I think you should always practice making questions and answers. So sometimes if I give this to even an advanced person, they have a difficult time with it, believe it or not. Maybe you can believe it. Maybe you've had this problem. Okay, so let's start with our beginning class, and then we'll move on to more advanced things. I always start with this little exercise where we have these three sentences, number 1, number 2, and number 3. And the first sentence is, yesterday was Wednesday, March 27th. And number 2 is, today is Thursday, March 28th. And number 3 is, tomorrow will be Friday, March 29th. So let's go back to number 1. And this is a listening exercise also. I'm going to ask you a question about number 1. And try to think about the answer. Is it yes or no? Was yesterday... Try to think about the answer. Whoops. Is it yeah? Yesterday... Let me start over. Was yesterday Saturday? Was yesterday Saturday, March 27th? Was yesterday Saturday, March 27th? How will you answer that question? Can you make the question? Can you answer? And by the way, feel free, please, to write your answer in the comments. I'd love to see your answer. Or if you have questions about something, it makes it more interesting when you ask questions, so don't think that you're interrupting me. Let me ask the question again. Was yesterday, I think I said Saturday, was yesterday Saturday, March 27th? Answer no. No. No, yesterday. No, yesterday wasn't. No, yesterday wasn't Saturday, March 27th. No, yesterday wasn't March 27th. Yesterday was not. Yesterday wasn't. Yesterday wasn't Saturday, March 27th. Can you make a what day question? How would you ask a what day yesterday? How would you make that question? What day? What day was yesterday? What day was yesterday? And what is the answer? Yesterday was Wednesday, March 27th. Let's move on to number 2. I will ask you a question about number 2. Think about how to answer the question. Is today Tuesday? Is today Tuesday, March 28th? Is today Tuesday, March 28th? Is today Tuesday, March 28th? Make sure when you say Tuesday, you give a little kiss. Mwah. Tuesday. Because if you don't, if you say Tuesday, I can't even do it, Tuesday, it sounds like you're just pronouncing Thursday wrong. It sounds like you're saying Thursday. So you have to give a big kiss when you say Tuesday. Is today Tuesday, March 28th? Is today Tuesday, March 28th? How will you answer no? No. Today is not. No, today's not. No, today isn't. No, today isn't Tuesday, March 28th. No, today isn't Tuesday, March 28th. How will you make a what day question? What day? What day is today? What day is today? And what is the correct answer? The correct answer is today's Thursday, March 28th. Today's Thursday, March 28th. Now I'm going to ask you a question about number 3. Listen to the question and try to think about how to answer it correctly. Will tomorrow be Wednesday, March 29th? Will tomorrow be Wednesday, March 29th? Will tomorrow be Wednesday, March 29th? How will you answer no to that question? No. No, tomorrow will not be. No, tomorrow won't be. No, tomorrow won't be Wednesday, March 29th. Can you make a what day question? What day will tomorrow be? What day will tomorrow be? And in spoken English, it would sound like what'll. Or what day'll tomorrow be? What day'll tomorrow be? Tomorrow will be Friday, March 29th. And in spoken English, that sounds like tomorrow will be Friday, March 29th. Okay, that's just a little warm up. Now let's talk about some higher numbers. We have these numbers in the 2000s. But there's an interesting thing that happens in English when you have a double zero in the thousands. There are 2 ways to say it. One way you probably know, and the other way you probably don't know. You probably know the first one. You probably know 2,100. That's probably what you learned. But really, when you have a double zero in the thousands, people normally would never say 2,100. What they would say is 2,100. So there are 2 ways to say this number. Any double zero in the thousands you can do this with. Let's practice going through this list. So we have 2,000. That's a triple zero. So there is no alternative way of saying that. That's 3 zeros. This is only for 2 zeros. And then we have the next number, I almost said it, 2,100. But most of the time, people will never say that. They'll say 2,100. 2,100. What is the next number? Can you say the next number? It's 2,200. But when people are talking, they will never say 2,200. They will use the other system, and they'll say 22, 2,200, 2,200, 2,200. You don't have to pronounce the T at the end of 20. You can say 20, 2,200. What is the next number? That's 2,300, 2,300. But you'll never hear that when people are talking because we prefer to say 2,300, 2,300, 2,300. What is the next number on the list? It's 2,400, 2,400. But in spoken English, you would probably hear 24, 2,400, 2,400. The next number is 2,500. How will you say that in typical spoken English? 2,500, 2,500. How about the next number? It's 2,600. And what would be a more typical way of saying 2,600? 26, 2,600, 2,600. Now the next number is 2,700. But in spoken English, how would you probably say that? 27, 2,700, 2,700. The next number is 2,800. Can you guess how to say that in typical spoken English? That would be 2,800, 2,800. Finally, we have 2,900. How would you say that? That would be 2,900. Okay, now we'll go through some very basic sentences. We're using irregular verbs, and we're going to practice using the past and the present and the future. We're going to practice making negatives and asking questions with that. So here's our first sentence, which is, Mike buys a new car every year. This is in the present, which means all the time, happens all the time. So that's why we say every year, because it's a regular thing that he does. Mike buys a new car. Mike buys a new car. Mike buys a new car every year. How would you ask a yes/no question with that sentence? Mike buys a new car every year. Make a yes/no question. Does Mike? Does he? Does he? Does he buy? Does he buy a? Does he buy a? Does he buy a? Does he buy a new car every year? Does he buy a new car every year? Let's answer every year no, but last week yes. So first we have to say in the present the negative. How would you say every year no? No he doesn't buy. No he doesn't buy a. So listen to that slowly. No, he does not buy a. But in spoken English, it would sound like, no, he doesn't buy a. No, he doesn't buy a. No, he doesn't buy a new car every year. No, he doesn't buy a new car every year. But now we want to say, but last week he buy a new car. Last week is in the past. So how would you say that? But last week he bought. This is an irregular verb. Bought. Last week he bought a new car. He bought a new car. Last week he bought a. That's how it sounds in spoken English. Last week he bought a new car. So no, he doesn't buy a new car every year, but last week he bought a new car. Can you try to say all of that? It's pretty long, but this is how you become more fluent, by practicing saying a lot of things at once. No, he doesn't buy a new car every year, but he bought a new car last week. Oh wait, I think I messed that up. Let me say that again. No, he doesn't buy a new car every year, but last week he bought a new car. Okay, our new sentence is, he bought a new car last week. He bought a new car last week. How will you ask a yes/no question with that sentence? Did he buy a? Listen to how that sounds in spoken English. Did he buy a? Did he buy a? Did he buy a? Did he buy a? Did he buy a new car last week? Did he buy a new car last week? Now let's answer no. Last week, no, but next month, future, we'll use will. So first let's answer no. Did he buy a new car last week? No. No, he did not. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. No, he didn't buy a. No, he didn't buy a. No, he did not buy a. No, he didn't buy a. No, he didn't buy a car last week. But how will you tell me, using will for the future, how will you tell me but next month buy? But next month he will buy a. He'll buy a. He'll buy a new car. Next month he'll buy a new car. No, he didn't buy a new car last week, but he'll buy a new car next month. Can you try to say all of that together? No, he didn't buy a car last week, but he'll buy a new car next month. I'm getting confused. It's hard for me too. Okay, so now we have our new sentence, which is, he will buy a new car next month. Try to repeat that. He will buy a new car next month. He will buy a, he'll buy a new car next month. He'll buy a new car next month. How will you ask a yes-no question with he'll buy a new car next month? Will he buy a? Will he buy a? Will he buy a? Will he buy a new car next month? Will he buy a new car next month? How will you answer no to that question? No. No, he will not. No, he won't. No, he won't. No, he won't buy a. No, he won't buy a. No, he won't buy a new car next month. And now let's make a when question. No, he won't buy a new car next month. So now let's say, well, okay, when? When buy a new car? When? When will he? When will he buy a? 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 When will he buy a new car? When will he buy a new car? And let's answer tomorrow. He will buy a. He'll buy a. He'll buy a. He will buy a. He'll buy a new car next month. Or, sorry, tomorrow. He'll buy a new car tomorrow. He'll buy a new car tomorrow. Okay. All right, let's do a new sentence. Here's our next irregular verb, and we're starting with the past this time. Lisa hid the present last night. Lisa hid the present last night. That's the verb to hide. Hide, hid, hidden. Lisa hid the present, the gift. Lisa hid the present last night. How will you ask a yes-no question with that sentence? Did she? Did she hide the? Did she hide the? Did she hide the? Did she hide the present last night? Did she hide the present last night? How will you answer no? Let's answer no to that question. No, she didn't. No, she didn't hide the. No, she didn't hide the present last night. No, she didn't hide the present last night. Now let's add a but. Let's add a big but. But tonight, so I don't know where you are right now, but let's imagine that's the future. How will you say, using will as the future, how will you say she hide the present tonight? She will hide the. She'll hide the. She'll hide the present. She'll hide the present tonight. She'll hide the present tonight. She will hide the present tonight. She'll hide the. She'll hide the present tonight. That's our new sentence. She will hide the present tonight. How will you ask a yes-no question with that sentence? Will she? Will she hide the? Will she hide the present? Will she hide the present tonight? Will she hide the present tonight? Let's answer tonight, no. But every Christmas, yes. So first let's answer no. No, she will. No, she will not. No, she won't. No, she won't hide. She won't hide. She won't hide the present tonight. But every Christmas, so this is a regular thing. That's why we're going to use the present, because it's every Christmas, all Christmases. But every Christmas she hides. Every Christmas she hides the present. Every Christmas she hides the present. No, she won't hide the present tonight, but every Christmas she hides the presents. Okay, so our new sentence now is she hides the present. Well, I guess we should make that plural. She hides the presents every Christmas. She hides the presents every Christmas. How will you make a yes-no question with that sentence? Does she? Does she hide the? Does she hide the presents every Christmas? Does she hide the presents every Christmas? How will you answer no to that question? No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't hide the. No, she doesn't hide the presents. No, she doesn't hide the presents every Christmas. No, she doesn't hide the presents every Christmas. Let's make a how often question. How often? How often does she hide the? How often does she hide the presents? How often does she hide the presents? Oh, I don't have an answer here. Oh well, we'll skip the answer for this one. I can't think of any answer for that. Let's move on to number 3. Here's our new sentence, which is, John will speak to his teacher tonight. John will speak to his teacher tonight. Speak to his, speak to his, speak to his, speak to his. John'll speak to his teacher tonight. That's how it sounds in spoken English usually. John will speak to his teacher. He'll speak to his teacher tonight. He'll speak to his teacher tonight. Can you make a yes-no question with that sentence? Will he? Will he speak? Will he speak? Will he speak to his? Will he speak to his? Will he speak to his teacher tonight? Will he speak to his teacher tonight? Let's answer tonight, no, but always, yes. So first let's say no. Will he speak to his teacher tonight? No, he won't. No, he will not. No, he will not. No, he won't. No, he won't. No, he won't speak to his teacher tonight. No, he won't speak to his teacher tonight. Now let's do always. Because we're using always, which means it happens regularly, we have to use the simple present for that. But he always speaks to his teacher. But he always speaks to his teacher. You have to put that word always in a very special place. You cannot start a sentence with always. And you normally wouldn't finish a sentence with the word always. That goes in a very special place, that word. He always speaks to his teacher. But he always speaks to his teacher. He won't speak to his teacher tonight, but he always speaks to his teacher. Try to say everything together. That's how you become more fluent. You have to hold all of those words in your head at the same time and organize them. It's really hard. But he always speaks to his teacher. He won't speak to his teacher tonight, but he always speaks to his teacher. Okay, so our new sentence is he always speaks to his teacher. Let's make a yes-no question with that sentence. Does he always speak to his? Does he always speak to his? Does he always speak to his teacher? Does he always speak to his teacher? Let's answer no. Let's say no first. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't always. No, he doesn't always. No, he doesn't always speak to his teacher. No, he does not always speak to his teacher. That's how it should sound, but the way people say it is, no, he doesn't always speak to his teacher. No, he doesn't always speak to his teacher. Now let's add a but. But yesterday, so now we have to use the past. But yesterday do you know the past of speak? That's an irregular verb. Speak, spoke, spoken. But yesterday he spoke. But yesterday he spoke to his teacher. Yesterday he spoke to his teacher. Yesterday he spoke to his teacher. That's our new sentence. He spoke to his teacher yesterday. He spoke to his teacher yesterday. How will you ask a yes-no question with that sentence? Did he speak to? Did he speak to? Did he speak to his teacher? Did he speak to his teacher yesterday? Let's answer no. No, he did not. No, he didn't. No, he didn't speak to. No, he didn't speak to his teacher yesterday. Let's make a when question. When speak to teacher? In the past. This would be in the past. When did he speak? When did he speak to his teacher? When did he speak to his teacher? And let's answer last week. Last week. He spoke to his teacher last week. He spoke to his teacher last week. All right, let's practice another sentence using an irregular verb. Here's our sentence. Mary drives to work every morning. Mary drives to work every morning. How will you make a yes/no question with that sentence? Does she? Does she drive? Does she drive to work? Does she drive to work every morning? Does she drive to work every morning? Let's answer no, but this morning, yes. So, I don't know where you are watching this, but let's use the past. It's afternoon here. How will you say that in the past? Drive is irregular. Drive, drove, driven. But this morning, she drove to work. But this morning, she drove to work. She doesn't drive to work every morning, but this morning she drove to work. Try to say all of that together. She doesn't drive to work every morning, but this morning she drove to work. That's our new sentence. This morning she drove to work. Or let's say she drove to work this morning. How will you make a yes/no question with that sentence? Did she? Did she drive? Did she drive to work this morning? Did she drive to work this morning? Let's answer no to that question. How will you answer no to that question? Did she drive to work this morning? No, she didn't. No, she didn't drive. No, she didn't drive to work this morning. No, she didn't drive to work this morning. Now let's add a but. But tomorrow morning, yes. How will you say that in the future using will? But tomorrow morning, yes. She will drive to work. She will drive to work tomorrow morning. She'll drive to work tomorrow morning. She didn't drive to work this morning, but she'll drive to work tomorrow morning. Try to say all of that together. That's how you become more fluent. She didn't drive to work this morning, but she'll drive to work next morning. Oh, tomorrow morning. Okay, our new sentence is, she will drive to work tomorrow morning. She'll drive to work tomorrow morning. How do you ask a yes/no question, a basic question with that sentence? She will drive to work tomorrow morning. Will she? Will she drive? Will she drive to work tomorrow morning? Will she drive to work tomorrow morning? And let's answer no. No. No, she will not. No, she won't. No, she won't drive to work tomorrow morning. No, she won't drive to work tomorrow morning. How do you make a when question with that sentence? When will she? Or in spoken English, when'll she? When'll she? When'll she drive? When'll she drive to work? When'll she drive to work? And let's answer on Friday. So that's Friday in the future. She will drive to work. She'll drive to work. She'll drive to work on Friday. She'll drive to work on Friday. Okay, one more. Here's our final sentence, and then we're going to move on to some more advanced English. Mark will run in the park later. Mark will run in the park later. And when you're saying a name, you can combine that with the word will. It's not something that you should write, but it sounds like this. Markle, like Angela Merkel. Mark will run in the park later. Mark will run in the park later. Or we can use he. He'll run in the park later. He'll run in the park later. How will you make a basic yes/no question with that sentence? Will he? Will he run? Will he run? Will he run in the park later? Will he run in the park later? How do you answer no to that? No, he. No, he will not. No, he. No, he. No, he. No, he will not. No, he won't. No, he won't run in the park later. No, he won't run in the park later. Okay, but now let's add more information. Let's add a but. But most mornings. Most mornings. That's something that's very regular because it's almost every morning. So we have to use the simple present for this. But most mornings he runs. Most mornings he runs in the park. No, he didn't run in. No, he won't run in the park later. But most mornings he runs in the park. Can you try to say all of that together? No, he won't run in the park later. But most mornings he runs in the park. Okay, that's our new sentence. He runs in the park most mornings. He runs in the park most mornings. How will you make a yes/no question with that sentence? Does he? Does he? Does he run? Does he run in the park? Does he run in the park most mornings? Does he run in the park most mornings? And how will you answer no to that question? No, he. No, he does not. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't run in the park most mornings. No, he doesn't run in the park most mornings. Now let's add a but. But last Monday, that's in the past, run is an irregular verb. It's run, ran, and then run again. So let's use the past, ran. And let's say last Monday. But he ran, buddy ran. But he ran in the park last Monday. How will you make a yes/no question with that sentence? Did he? Did he? Did he run? Did he run in the park last Monday? Did he run in the park last Monday? How will you answer no to that question? No, he. No, he did not. No, he didn't. No, he didn't run. No, he didn't run in the park last Monday. Now let's make a when question. When, this is in the past. When did he run? When did he run? When did he run in the park? And let's answer over the weekend. So we're using the past. So that's the last weekend. He ran in the park. He ran in the park over the weekend. He ran in the park over the weekend. Okay. Well, that's it for the basic stuff for today. And now we're going to move on to something more complicated. And in my last video, when I did a live class, we talked about this question and I had to explain something in a lot of detail. And I'm going to explain it again because this is something that it's really difficult for people to remember. And these are really notes that I've taken from my classes. So the reason I did that last class, we talked about this topic last class, was because it happened to me. I was teaching a class like this. And then I was teaching this student again a few days ago, and he couldn't remember all of this because it's complicated. It's a little bit complicated. So I'm going to go through and review exactly what we talked about last class, and then we'll continue with an exercise practicing this. Okay. Let's take a look. Let me see if I can. I just want to take this off the screen here. Okay. We're just looking at a very simple sentence here. He paid her. He paid her. But you can see that there are two people, there are two who's in this sentence. There's he and there's her. Those are two people, two who's. One is the subject, the source of the action, the origin of the action, and the other is the object, the receiver of the action. And if you want to make a who is receiving question, and if you look on the screen, I've made it very easy for you because I've made the receiving part gray so that we know we're talking about the object. The person receiving is her. If you wanted to make a who is receiving question, you follow the typical question rules. So you make the basic question. So we have he paid her. The yes/no question is did he pay her? Did he pay her? In a spoken English, that sounds like did he pay her? Did he pay her? Did he pay her? And then once you have the basic question, then you can make your who question. You can say, who did he pay? Who did he pay? Who did he pay? Who did he pay? That is that's the typical way of making that question. If you wanted to use the word whom, which is the object form of who, that's pretty easy. You just say whom instead of who. Whom did he pay? Whom did he pay? But the word whom isn't used very much in conversational English. It's used more in formal writing. You will sometimes meet people using the word whom in spoken English, but 95% of the time, you probably won't hear it. Okay, so that's how you make a who object question, but it's funny because if you want to make a who subject question, it's very different. You don't follow the typical question rules. So the subject, the source of the action, is he. And if you want to make a who is doing the action question, you just substitute the subject with the word who. Who paid her? Who paid her? Who paid her? Who paid her? Now we have the same sentence here, but there's one difference. I've added a preposition. And that preposition is important because if you say he paid her, that means he's giving money and she's receiving money. But if you say he paid for her, she isn't receiving money. She's just receiving some kind of benefit. So that changes the idea. Using that preposition changes the idea. So that little word for is very important in the meaning of your idea. We have to pay attention to it. We have to take care of it, okay? And the typical way that you do this in English is very unusual. It's very different from other languages. Because what you have to do is make a who ... for question. So you just let that for stay in the place where it was originally in the sentence. It could be in the middle of a sentence, but you just leave it there. So you have the original question, who did he pay? But if you have the word for, you have to say, who did he pay for? It's very strange. Who did he pay for? And some people will tell you that's wrong. If you look in a grammar book, they'll say, oh, you can't end a sentence with a preposition. But this is how most people would ask that question. And what those people would want you to do is use the whom form and say for whom. And this is very similar to other languages. So probably in your language, whatever you're speaking, it's more similar to this unusual way to ask the question, this formal way. For whom did he pay? You can do it that way if you want. It sounds a little bit unusual. All right. So we're talking about prepositions. Okay. All right, so that's a review of who subject, who object questions. Kind of complicated, but let's practice using it now. Let's put that into practice. And let me just, I want to take this information off the screen. I don't want you to read it. I want you to listen to it and think about it and change these things in your head. Okay, so we have a sentence, and actually I'm going to say the sentence. Well, I think I have to, I'm sorry, but I have to take like a 1-minute break. I'll be right back. Where's my be right back screen? All right, we're back. Sorry about that. All right. I'm just looking to see where we should start with this. Okay. So I'm just going to give you a sentence in regular spoken English, and I want you to try to repeat it if you can. If you're somewhere between intermediate and advanced, you should know all of these words. These are not fancy words that we're using here. Here's the sentence. He backed up the claims. He backed up the claims. He backed up the claims. Oh, wait. You know, I think I have to use my original exercise because these are just notes and things aren't really connected very well. Let me just find it. Because these phrases are all taken apart and I don't have the full sentence. Okay, but I don't want you to look. All right, here we go. Here's the full sentence. It's pretty long. It's intentionally confusing, okay, because I'm going to ask you to do things with it. Here's the full sentence, and I want you to try to repeat it if you can. They backed up their claims to the committee with data from last year. They backed up their claims to the committee with data from last year. So if you are an intermediate to advanced level student, you should know all of these words very easily. So if you don't understand what I'm saying, that's a problem, because it's just regular spoken English. They backed up their claims to the committee with data from last year. Let's go. We'll divide this into like 3 parts. Here's the first part. They backed up their claims. They backed up their claims. They backed up their claims. What am I saying? Can you repeat what I'm saying? They backed up their claims. They backed up their claims. That is, I think I have that here. Oh, I have the full sentence. I don't want you to see the full sentence. I'll say it slowly. They backed up their claims. And we got into a conversation about the pronunciation of the word claims because this is a Spanish speaker. He was from Argentina. I just want to move this down. At first he thought I was saying clients, but really what I was saying was claims. And a claim is something that you say. Well, it could be. It has several different meanings, but it's something that you say, but you don't have any evidence. Let's just review the pronunciation of these two words. Number one, if you can see on the screen, number one is clients. It has two syllables, two very clear syllables. The first syllable is cli, and the second syllable is yens. Because cli finishes with a vowel sound, and because yens starts with a vowel sound, and this is really important if you're having trouble with pronunciation. If people are not understanding what you're saying, this is really important. This will help you a lot. You have to add an extra sound in between those two syllables. You have to separate them with a sound. In this case, it's going to be ye. So the way you say this word in a very clear way would be clients. You have one syllable cli, and then you have the other syllable yens. You have to push that extra sound in the middle. Clients, 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 clients. And to me, I would never confuse number one and number two. They sound very different to me. Let's look at number two, claims. Claims is only one syllable. It does have extra sounds in there, but it doesn't have that extra push in the middle to separate the two syllables. And the way that you say number two is claims. Claims. So number one is clients, and number two is claims. Claims. And to me, they sound very different. Now, in my sentence, we said they backed up their claims. The next part of the sentence is to the committee, to the committee, committee, to the committee. They backed up their claims to the committee with data from last year. With data, data. Some people say data. Some people say data. I say data. They backed up their claims to the committee with data from last year. Try to say that whole sentence. They backed up their claims to the committee with data from last year. Okay. Now let's try to, now I'll let you see the sentence. Now you can see it. What does that phrasal verb back up mean to you? Because actually, when I was talking to my student, he said, oh, that's like making an extra copy. And I understood why he thought that, because that's very common, especially in the IT field, to make a backup copy of something. But what backup really means is support. So the reason it's called a backup file is it's a support file. It's something extra in case of an emergency. You can use that extra one. Everything is not lost. So really what backup means is support. And then we were talking about, imagine if you and your friend were getting into a fight. Let's see, if I get into a fight, will you back me? Oh, I forgot to put up. I didn't put up here. Will you back me up? It should be up. I'm not changing it. If I get into a fight, will you back me up? Will you support me? You know, somebody backing you up could just be standing here next to you saying, yeah, he's right. That's support. That's backup. Backup really means support. Okay, let's get back to our sentence, which is, they backed up their claims to the committee with data from last year. Now, back up is a separable phrasal verb. That means that you can put the object inside the verb. Can you do the inside position? How would you put the object inside of that verb? How would you say that? They backed up their claims. What is the object in this sentence? It's a very long, it's intentionally confusing sentence. It's very long, but what is the object of the verb? It's their claims. Put that inside the verb and say, they backed their claims up. They backed their claims up. They backed their claims up to the committee with data from last year. They backed their claims up with data. They backed up their claims to the committee with data from last year. It's hard for me to say that. Okay. Now let's make a who object question. Who object? Who object? We have they backed up their claims to the committee last year. The committee is the object who here. Okay. Now, when we were doing this, his answer was, who did back up their claims with the committee who did back their claims up with data from last year? And he was actually accidentally, he made a who subject question. We don't want to know who's doing the action. We want to know who's receiving the action. So we want to ask about the committee. We know they are doing the action. And this was difficult for him, especially because it was such a long, confusing sentence. So what I asked him to do was start with a yes-no question. How do you make a yes-no question with they backed their claims up to the committee with data from last year? Did they? Did they back up? Or did they back their claims up? Did they back their claims up? Did they back up their claims up to the committee? Did they back their claims up to the committee with data from last year? Okay. Now that you have the basic question, now you can ask a who is receiving question. This will be who to. Who to. Who did they back their claims up to? Who did they back their claims up to? It's really complicated. It's really hard. Even a lot of advanced people would have difficulty with this. Who did they back their claims up to with data from last year? And it's funny because you have three prepositions up against each other. You have up, to, with. So the best thing to do is to pause. Who did they back their claims up to with data from last year? You have to put in a little pause to make it sound nice. Who did they back their claims up to? There's a little pause there, with data from last year. Okay, now if you wanted to be formal, or maybe if you're writing something, instead of using the who to form, you might want to use the to whom form. To whom sounds very fancy if you talk like that. Most people wouldn't do that. But if you wanted to, you could make it the question like this. To whom did they back their claims up? To whom did they back their claims up with data from last year? Now, let's make a who subject question. We've done the object. We've asked about who's receiving. But if we take that sentence, they backed their claims up to the committee with data from last year. Ask about who is doing the action. Who backed their claims up? See, it's different, but it's very easy because you just substitute the subject with the word who. Who backed their claims up to the committee with data from last year? All right. Let's move on to our next sentence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this sentence, and I want you to listen, and I want you to try to repeat it. And if you can't repeat it, that's a problem, because it shows that you're having some difficulty with fluency or maybe listening. But if you are intermediate to advanced, you should understand all of the words that I'm saying. You should know these words. So let me say the sentence and see if you can repeat it. This is like a test to see how well you can listen to English, or how well you can manipulate all of those words around in your head. She'll bring up some important issues with the director of the department next week. She'll bring up some important issues with the director of the department next week. She'll bring up some important issues with the director of the department next week. Okay, probably most people have a difficult time hearing all of that and saying all of that. So let's start with just the first part of the sentence, which is, she'll bring up some important issues. She'll bring up some important issues. She will bring up. She will bring up some important issues. She'll bring up some important issues. She'll bring up some important issues. Now that's a phrasal verb, bring up. What does it mean? What does it mean to bring something up? It means to mention, to say. So she will mention some important issues. This is a separable phrasal verb. How would you take the object and put it inside the verb? She'll bring up some important issues. She'll bring some important issues up. She'll bring some important issues up. She'll bring some important issues up with the director of the department. With the director of the, listen to me say that quickly, with the director of the director of the department. With the director of the department. That's hard to say. She'll bring some important issues up with the director of the department next week. Can you try to repeat all of that? I know it's long. Everybody always complains about how long that is. But if you can do that, it's a way of helping your fluency, because you've got to think about all of those words in your head and arrange them, and not think in your native language. It's really a challenge. She'll bring some important issues up with the director of the department next week. Okay, I'll show you the sentence now. She'll bring some important issues up with the director of the department next week. How will you make a who subject question with that sentence? Remember, if you're making a who subject question, that's different. It's very easy to make this question, but it's different from your typical question. You just change who, she to who. You just change the subject to who. Who will bring some important issues up? Or who'll bring some important issues up with the director of the department next week. All right, so that's easy. Now let's try the hard one, the who object question. Now our sentence is, she will bring some important issues up with the director of the department next week. Can you make a who object question? This is going to be who ... with. Who with. Who will she bring some important issues up with? Who will she bring some important issues up with? Who will she bring some important issues up with next week? And again, we have this situation where you have two prepositions hitting up against each other. You have to pause. That's the best way to do that. Who will she bring some important issues up with next week? You stop for a second. Okay, so we've got who will she bring some... I don't want you cheating and looking at the answers. So we have who will she bring some important issues up with next week. Okay, Now let's try the with whom way of doing it. How would you make the same question but use with whom? With whom will she bring some important issues up next week? And to me that sounds very strange. I don't like it. But technically it's more correct to say it that way. It's very unnatural though. With whom will she bring some important issues up next week? Okay. Oh, now let's try some reported speech. How would you add they asked us? They asked us. Oh, you can see the answer. When you're doing a reported speech question, or reported speech anything, normally you would change will to would, and you have to not use the question form anymore. So the way that this question turns out is, they asked us with whom she would bring some important issues up next week. You change will to would, and no more question form. And you can use the contraction form of would. You can say she'd. They asked us with whom she'd bring up some important issues next week. Okay, let's try a new sentence here. So I'm going to say the sentence just in regular, normal, spoken English. And I want you to try to repeat it. And again, these are words that if you are intermediate to advanced, you should know these words. So you should be able to understand what I'm saying. And if you can't understand what I'm saying, then either you have a problem processing all of the words together, or well, that's probably your problem. So try to repeat what I'm saying. You should know all of these words. Here's the sentence. We checked out new innovative products with the purchasing department. We checked out new innovative products with the purchasing department. We checked out new innovative products with the purchasing department. If you're intermediate to advanced, you should know all of these words. Okay, let's just do the first part of the sentence if you're having trouble with it. We checked out new innovative products. We checked out new innovative products. We checked out new innovative products. We checked out new innovative products with the purchasing department. With the purchasing department. Okay, now I'll show you the sentence. Now that phrasal verb, check out, are you familiar with that phrasal verb? Do you know what that means, check out? That means like to investigate something, to see if you're interested in it. Usually it's used when talking about buying something. So if you check something out, it means like maybe going to the store and looking at, maybe you want to buy a new computer, but it's very expensive. So first you go to the store and you play with the computer, you see if you're comfortable with it. You're investigating it because you're interested in buying it. You can use checkout to mean investigate things for other interests too. It doesn't have to be about buying, but it's used a lot when you're talking about buying something. We checked out new innovative products with the purchasing department. Okay, let's see. We checked out new innovative products with the purchasing department. Now, how would you make a who object question with that sentence? So I'll just bring this up onto the screen and you can see it. So I've grayed out the object part just to help you a little bit visually. How would you make a who object question? So this is going to be who ... with. A who with question. How would you make that? Okay, the answer is, who did we check out new innovative products with? Who did we check out new innovative products with? That's a who ... with question. And check out is a separable phrasal verb. So how would you say it, putting the object inside the verb? Who did we check new innovative products out with? And again, we have this situation where one preposition is bumping up against another preposition. It's always a good idea to pause when you do that. Who did we check new innovative products out with? Can you make the same question, but let's use the more formal whom? So instead of asking a who with question, let's ask a with whom question. With whom did we? With whom did we? With whom did we check out new innovative products? Or with whom did we check new innovative products out? Okay. Now let's take that same sentence. We checked out new innovative products with the purchasing department, and let's make a who subject question. I'll just bring that up on the screen to help you think about that. You see, now we're asking about a different who. We're asking about the subject. How will you make that question? What is the correct way to ask who is doing the action? So remember, that's different. You have to use a different way of making the question. And the answer is who checked out. Who checked out. It's different, but it's easy. You just substitute the subject with the word who. Who checked out new innovative products with the purchasing department? Okay. Now let's move on to a new sentence, but unfortunately I have to take another minute break. I'm drinking too much coffee today. So I'll be right back. Don't go away. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Let's keep going. Okay, here's a new sentence. And again, this is if you are intermediate to advanced, you should be able to understand. You should know all of these words. So if there's a problem, it's a problem with your listening comprehension, which should be fixed and can be fixed if you follow these steps that I'm giving you. So here's our new sentence that I want you to try to repeat. The manager's going to give back the I can't even read it. These are intentionally difficult sentences to remember and say. The manager is going to give back the report to the team with some suggestions. The manager is going to give back the report to the team with some suggestions. Okay, if you didn't get the whole thing, let's take it step by step. The manager is going to give back the report. The manager is going to give back the report. The manager is going to give back the report. We're using a phrasal verb, give back. It means return. The manager is going to give back the report. The manager is going to give back the report to the team. The manager is going to give back the report to the team. The manager is going to give back the report to the team with some suggestions. The manager is going to give back the report to the team with some suggestions. Can you try to say all of that? It's not, people always complain. They say, oh, I can't remember all those words. But it really is, if you think about it, if you can try to do this, it's a way of arranging words in your head, organizing things in your head, and you're not using your native language. You're just trying to keep all those words together. It really helps to build your fluency if you're having fluency issues. It also helps your listening. The manager is going to give back the report to the team with some suggestions. Okay, I'll show you the sentence now. The manager is going to give back the report to the team with some suggestions. Okay. Now this is a separable phrasal verb. That means that you can put the object inside the verb. So how would you do that? How will you change that to put the object inside the verb? The manager is going to give the report back. The manager is going to give the report back to the team with some suggestions. Let me put that up here. So that's the inside position. The manager is going to give the report back to the team with some suggestions. Now let's make a who subject question. Let me bring this up for you. So we want to make a question about who is doing the action, not who's receiving, but who's doing. How do you make a who subject question? Who is doing the action? Who's going to give back the report to the team with some suggestions? Who's going to give the report back to the team with some suggestions? Okay, now let's take that same sentence. And this time, let's make a who object question. How will you do that? How do you make a who object question? I've graded out here so you can see. If you're looking at the screen, you can see, because it's a very long, confusing sentence, you can see we want to know about the team. We want to ask who is receiving the report. And it's a team. So this is going to be a who ... to question. Who to? Who to? Let's look at the answer. Who is the manager going to give the report back to with some suggestions? Who is the manager going to give back the report to with some suggestions? That's very different from most other languages. It's a very weird thing. Okay. But you could also use the formal whom. You could, instead of making a who to question, you can make a to whom question. How will you make that question? To whom? To whom is the manager going to give the report back with some suggestions? Okay, we won't do the reported speech part. Let's just move on to the next sentence. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to say the sentence now. And again, I think that if you're intermediate to advanced, you should know all of these words probably. Oh wait, I'm showing you the answer. I don't want you to see the answer. Okay, here's the sentence. Just listen, try to repeat, try to build your fluency, try to build your listening skills. She can work out a new deal with the distributor before next month. She can work out a new deal with the distributor before next month. You should know all of those words. So if you can't understand me, that's a problem. but we can fix it now. We'll take it step by step. She can work out a new deal. She can work out a new deal. Work out a new deal. She can work out a new deal. She can work out a new deal. Work out is a phrasal verb, and it means to fix a problem, to solve a problem, to fix something through work. So it's like a negotiation. Maybe you know that Beatles song, "We can work it out, we can work it out." They're talking about a relationship that's having problems, and they're saying we can fix this relationship. We can do the work that we need to do to fix the relationship. If you know that song. If you don't, I can't think of another song that has that. But so if you're working out a new deal, that means you're negotiating a new deal. It's going to take work to fix this, to make this deal. She can work out a new deal with the distributor. Try to say that. She can work out a new deal. She can work out a new deal. She can work out a new deal with the distributor, with the distributor, with the distributor, with the distributor, with the distributor. She can work out a new deal with the distributor before next month. Before next month. Try to say everything. She can work out a new deal with the distributor before next month. Okay, now I'll show you the sentence. She can work out a new deal with the distributor before next month. All right. Now this is a separable phrasal verb. That means you can put the object inside the verb. Can you do that? Identify the object and put it inside the verb. She can work a new deal out. She can work out a new deal. She can work a new deal out. She can work a new deal out. She can work a new deal out with the distributor before next month. She can work a new deal out with the distributor before next month. I'll just put that up here so you can see it. She can work a new deal out with the distributor before next month. Okay, now let's ask a who object question. Who object? So I'm just bringing this up, and I've identified the object for you. That's the gray one. Okay, so we want to know who is on the receiving end of this verb, the distribute. How will you make that question? That's going to be a who with question. Who with? How will you make that question? Who can she? Who can she work? Who can she work a new deal out? Work a new deal out. Who can she work a new deal out with? Who can she work a new deal out with before next month? And because you have these prepositions next to each other, you have to pause, or it's a good idea to pause. She can work a new deal out. Who can... Oh, wait. I didn't put the question. Let me bring that up. So you can see the question. Who can she work a new deal out with? Who can she work a new deal out with before next month? That's a good idea to pause there after with. Who can she work a new deal out with before next month? All right, or you can make the same question. You can do the formal with whom. So instead of saying who with, you can say with whom. With whom can she? With whom can she? With whom can she? With whom can she work a new deal out before next month? With whom can she work a new deal out before next month? All right, now let's make a who subject question. So before we were asking about who is receiving, but now we want to know who is doing, who is doing the action. How will you make that question? Who can work a new deal out? Who can work a new deal out? Who can work a new deal out with a distributor before next month? Okay. Let's move on to the next sentence. So I'm just going to say the sentence, and I want you to try to repeat what I'm saying. He figured out the bonus rates for each employee. He figured out the bonus rates for each employee. The vocabulary in these exercises is not complicated. You should know all of these words if you're intermediate to advanced. He figured out the bonus rates for each employee. He figured out the bonus rates for each employee. Were you able to get that? Let's chop it in half. He figured out the bonus rates. He figured out the bonus rates. Bonus rates. He figured out the bonus rates for each employee. For each employee. So employee sounds like chemployee because of each. Each employee. And for each sounds like for each. For each employee. He figured out the bonus rates for each employee. So I'm just going to put that up on the screen. He figured out the bonus rates for each employee. Now, when I was doing this, my student, he thought I said figure out, present. And the reason that he thought that was because when you have a word that starts with a vowel sound, it usually takes the sound of the word before it. So, in each case you hear figure, but if it's in the present, it would be figure out. But if it's in the past, it would be figured out. So what you really have to listen for is what starts the word out. Because in number 1, it's route. In number 2, it's doubt. And to me, they sound very different. Number 1, figure out. Number 2, figured out. But to him, they sounded very similar. Okay, he figured out the bonus rates for each employee, and this is a separable phrasal verb. So how would you put the object inside the verb? How would you do the inside position for that? He figured the bonus rates out. He figured the bonus rates out for each employee. He figured the bonus rates out for each employee. Then we had a pronunciation issue with the word rates, because when he said it, it sounded like he was saying number 2, rights. And they are very similar words. The only difference is that when you say number 1, it starts with re. So you're pushing out, you're saying eh. There's air coming out of your throat, re. And then eats. So that's re, eats, rates, 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 rates. But number 2 is ra. That's also, I think, ra, re. Well, I think re you push out, but ra you don't push, you swallow air when you say ra. It goes down, it doesn't go up. It goes ra. It goes down. Number 1 goes out, re, rates. Number 2 goes down, rights. Can you try to say number 1, rates, and number 2, rights? Very different, but also very similar. All right, so he figured the bonus rates out for each employee. How would you make a who subject question with that sentence? So I've got some help here for you. I've identified the subject for you. We want to know who's doing the action. How will you make that question? Who figured out the bonus rates for each employee? That's pretty easy. It's just different from your typical question, but it's pretty easy to do. Who figured out the bonus rates for each employee? Okay, but now let's do the other one. Let's ask Let's ask an object question. We'll ask an object question. So I've helped you. I've made the object gray. I've identified the object for you. This is going to be a who for question. Who for? How will you make that question? Who did he figure out the bonus rates for? Who did he figure out the bonus rates for? Let me put that up here. Who did he figure out the bonus rates for? Okay, or we can make a whom question. We could say for whom. How would you do that? How would you ask it using for whom? For whom did he figure out the bonus rates? For whom did he figure out the bonus rates? Okay. And that was the end of our who-whom class. And then, let's see. The next class was mostly about pronunciation. So this is going to be all about pronunciation. Maybe there'll be some vocabulary in here. I don't remember. But mostly this is about, and so this is kind of interesting. The first thing is pretty interesting because these words seem very different. Number 1, quality, and number 2, culture. I don't remember which word he was saying, but it sounded like the other word. He was Turkish. This is a Turkish guy. And, but let's just go through the pronunciation. Because I think a lot of people maybe would have a difficult time pronouncing number 1. Listen to all the sounds in number 1 if we say it really, really slowly. Qual. Qual. That's ooh-ah. Ooh-ah. Quale. And that first sound is very long. It has a long duration to it. Qual. Qual. And then the second syllable, the second vowel sound has a very short sound. So it's quale. Quale. Long and then short. Quale. And then T, that's also pretty long. Quality. Quality. With my accent, I say quality. 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 Also, number 2 has some complicated sounds in it. Let's take a look. First, we have cull. Cull. What do you think about that vowel sound in the beginning? That seems pretty short. Cull. Cull. But then when we get to the next sound, it's a very complex sound. Cure. Cure. Culture. Culture. So that first one's short, cull. But the second one's long and complicated. Cure. Culture. 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 Quality. Culture. Okay, I don't remember how he was pronouncing it. That was confusing. So because to me they seem like such different words. Okay, but then we come up against this next word, visual. And I think this is I'll write it the way it's spelled. Visual. This is a word that a lot of people have a hard time with. This always happens when you have syllables where one syllable finishes with a vowel sound and the next one starts with a vowel sound, because people don't know how to deal with that in English. And so they say something like visual or something like that. It depends on what language you speak. But it's a very complicated sound. It's visual. 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 That big U in the middle, most people don't do that. So it sounds a little bit strange when they say the word. Visual. There's a big oo in the middle that you usually miss when you're learning English. And the same problem happened when we talked about the word museum. We were reading an article, just focusing on the pronunciation as we went. The next word is museum, and that has a lot of complicated vowel sounds in it. So it's hard for people to pronounce it. The first syllable, mew. It starts with a smile and it finishes with a kiss. Mew. You see that? I start with a smile, mew, and it finishes with a kiss. Mew. A lot of people say moo. People learning English say moo, museum. But it's not. It's mew. Start with a smile, finish with a kiss. Mew. And the next vowel sound is also very complicated. It's several sounds together. Zium. And again, most people learning English, they don't put that extra push in the middle that you need to separate the two syllables. So most people learning English will say museum, museum, or something like that. It depends on which language you're coming from. But it isn't museum, it's museum. 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 That's how it sounds when you say it quickly. Museum. Museum. But you have to practice slowly at first until you get used to doing that, until it becomes a habit to do that. All right, the next word we have is accessible. I don't remember why we had a problem with that word. I don't remember how he pronounced it. But that first sound can be pretty tricky. The way that I can only tell you the way that I pronounce it. This could be different in the UK or Australia. But the way that I say it sounds like this. Ayak. 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 That's very North American sounding. It's different in other types of English. Ayak. Ayak. Accessible. Accessible. I think we were probably having problems with that first sound. Okay. So you can see a pattern, though. You can start to see a pattern with this person, but mostly with everybody. So probably, I don't know what language you're speaking, but you probably have this issue because almost everybody I work with from all over the world, they always have this issue. These complicated vowel sounds. This word, educate, has some pretty complicated sounds in it. The first part is easy, ed. But it's when we get to the second part, which is ju. This is the smile kiss sound again. You. Start with a smile, finish with a kiss. You. Edu. Edu. And then we have the long, so it's ed, which is short, ed, and then ju, very long, edu, edu. Can you hear how one is very short, ed, but the other one is very long, ju, edu. And the final sound, Kate, that's also long, that's e, Kate. Can you hear the two sounds? Kate. Most people miss these little extra sounds in the vowels. And I think that's one of the difficult things about pronouncing English. So the more you practice this, the more your accent will improve quite a bit. Educate. Educate. And you see this thing just keeps happening again and again. We have... wait, let me adjust something here. This whole class is just me trying to help him fix this one problem. Because it's the same sounds happening again and again. Why do I have this word twice? Technological. Oh, here's why. Let's just look at the vowel sounds of this word first. Tech. Tech. What do you think about that first vowel sound? Is that a big, long vowel sound, or is that a small, simple vowel sound? It's pretty small and simple. Tech. Tech. What about the next vowel sound? No. No. That's really like two sounds. It's O-oo. no, no, techno, techno, techno. So it goes short, long, techno, techno. Can you hear how one is very short and simple and the other one is very long and complicated? Techno. What about lad, 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 ah? I guess that's pretty short, right? That's not too long. Technolad. Technolodje. 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 Is that long or short? Che. Che. That's short. Technolodje. Cool. Now I'm just looking at the last syllable. I'm trying to remember our conversation. Okay, let's try to say it like number one. And notice that I put an H at the end of that syllable. The reason I'm putting the H there is because you have to kind of breathe out, or you have to push out air, like an H, when you do that. Call, call, call. You should feel some air pushing out when you say that. Technological. That's the H. That's why I have the H there. Technological. Let's try to say it like number two. That would be with no air. Technological. Technological. I suppose you could say it like number two if you wanted, but I would pronounce it, I think, like number one with some air. Technological. Pushing out some air when I'm doing that. Okay, our next word is undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. I'm not sure why we were talking about this word. I don't remember how he was pronouncing it. Probably it was because of the word doubt, though. So let's just look at the whole thing. Let's just look at the whole word. Un. What do you think about that? Un. Is that a big sound or a little sound? A long sound or a short sound? I think it's short. What about the next vowel sound? Doubt. Doubt. That's a-u. That's a-u. Doubt. Undoubt. Can you hear how compare un with doubt? It's doubt is very long compared to un. Undoubt. What about Ted? What do you think about Ted? Is that long or short? Ted. Undoubted. Undoubted. That's very short. So you've got short, long, short. Undoubted. Undoubted. Undoubtedly. And that final ly. That ly at the end of a word is always long. I have a lot of Ukrainian and Russian students. And people who speak Portuguese from Brazil. And they have a very hard time making that final E sound. They always want to say ugh. So a Russian or Ukrainian or Brazilian would say undoubtedly, undoubtedly, something like that. But it's lee, it's big and long, undoubtedly. Can you hear that? It's short, long, undoubtedly. It seems like a little thing, but if you pay attention to this, I guarantee you that you will be very impressed at how well you are understood. Suddenly. It's true. Because I've been working with people doing this for a long time. And I always see such a big improvement when we practice like this. So it might be annoying and hard work, but if that's what you want to do, improve your pronunciation, this is really a key. One of the big keys. So you can expect to see more classes like this. I hope you don't hate them. Okay, let's take a look at... We were reading an article about a museum. So a curator, in case you don't know, a curator is like the person in charge of the collection of the museum. They decide what should be displayed or what the museum should purchase to show people. But it's funny because we were talking about curator, but it sounded like he was saying a different word. It sounded like he was saying creator. So we had to look at the difference between those words. I just want to write this out. the actual spelling of the word. I have like my little phonetic system, but I don't have the actual word written, so let me just write that for you. Okay. So the first word, curator, it has some pretty complicated sounds. We have our smile kiss sound, cure, cure. Start with a smile, then you finish with a kiss. Cure. Then you have to reverse. Ray, ray. You start with a kiss and you finish with a smile. Ray, ray. Cure, cure, cure. Those are both really long sounds. Cure. So it's smile, kiss, kiss, smile, right? Cure, cure, curator. And that final sound, what do you think about that final sound at the end? That's a very short sound. Der, der. Curator, curator, curator. Now let's take a look at the second word, which is creator. So he wanted to say curator, but it sounded like he was saying creator. So let's look. Let's see. We've got I don't know why I put an E here. That should be like an I. There we go. So this is cree. That's the first syllable. Cree, cree. And the second syllable is a. Cree. But in English, when you have this situation of one syllable finishing with a vowel sound and the next syllable starting with a vowel sound, you have to give an extra push of sound in the middle because you want to separate the two syllables. So people learning English usually say something like creator, creator, because they don't put that big push in the middle, so it should sound like this: creator, creator. You have to really push that sound out to separate the two vowel sounds. What did I do here? I really didn't. Okay. Better. No. I don't know what I was thinking when I typed this out with. This is not usually how I spell these things. Okay. So, we've got creator. Creator. Let's compare that to number one. Number one is curator. 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 And number two is creator. Creator. I noticed a mistake. Another one. Let me get rid of it. Oh, I guess it's a software issue because I'm trying to change this and it's not letting me. Let's see. So I thought it was me making mistakes, but I think it's the software. I'm using OpenOffice word processor, and I think it has a little glitch. Okay. So number one, curator. Number two, creator. Creator. And number three, which is also a word, crater, that's what it sounds like if you try to say number two without that push in the middle. So number two is with the big push in the middle, creator. But number three is crater. Crater. So it's just like number two, except there's no big push in the middle to separate the two sounds. Number two, creator. Number three, crater. Okay, let's see. We've got the medium has become more important to dumb down. We talked about this phrasal verb, to dumb something down. which means to explain something in a simple way. If you know the word dumb, it's a synonym for stupid. So if you call someone dumb, you're saying that they're stupid. And to dumb something down as a verb, a phrasal verb, it means that you are explaining something in a simple way to someone because you think they're stupid or they won't understand if you try to be too complicated. It's kind of insulting to use that. If you're dumbing something down, you're essentially calling the other person stupid. Oh, and then we have this example. If you think about like talking to a child, maybe a child asks you, "Why do people die?" You could give them a respectful answer that respects their intelligence. Well, all living things end at some point. That would be like a respectful way of explaining something in very simple terms. But if you dumb something down, you explain it to them in a way because you don't think that they're intelligent enough to understand it. So maybe a dumbed down way of explaining why do people die would be, oh, because God misses them so much, he calls them back. That's kind of an example of dumbing down. Then we talked about this word trivia. To trivialize something means to make something seem small or unimportant. And trivia means small, unimportant things. And then just as an example of what trivia is, I went to ChatGPT and I said, give me some trivia. So these are just some examples of trivia. We'll look at a few of these just to get an understanding of what that really means. So trivia can be important, or interesting, but not important. So honey never spoils. Honey never goes bad. That's trivia. Hey, did you know honey never goes bad? The shortest recorded war in history was between Britain and Zanzibar on the 27th of August, 1896. Zanzibar surrendered after 38 minutes. It's trivia. It's kind of interesting. Oh, the shortest war in history. But it doesn't change your life. It's not very important to know that. That's what trivia is. If you use trivialize as a verb, it means that you think that what the other person is saying is not important. You don't care about what the other person is saying. It doesn't matter to you. It's not important to you. And then we use this example. He's a doctor, so we used a doctor example. Patient, doctor, my head hurts. Doctor, I'm sure it's fine. Let me look at your pulse. So the doctor just ignores the patient's complaint, and that makes the patient angry. Like, what? You don't think that what I'm saying is important? Maybe the patient would say, why are you trivializing my complaint? Why are you making it seem small and unimportant? That's what it means. Okay. So that was the end of that class. And then we moved on to another very advanced student. She's a university professor. So she has a very big vocabulary, but she's Korean, so she has some pronunciation issues. So we'll just go through the best way to pronounce these words. I'm not sure, I don't remember why we were talking about unexpected or what she was doing wrong with those words, but let's just go through the pronunciation of them. Because I think the letter X sometimes could be pretty difficult for people to say inside of a word. So this is unexpect. These are all short. Unexpect. Those are all short vowel sounds. Unexpected. Unexpected. They're all short. Except the final ly that's got to be long. Unexpectedly. 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 Yeah, I think it must have been an issue with the sound of X, because our next word is external. External. I think Koreans maybe have a hard time with X sounds. I think she says like external or something like that, something weird. But it's external, external. So that again is very short. Stern. I think normally E is a very short sound, but the stress here is on that syllable, so you make it longer. External. And that null is very short. So it's short, long, short. External. External. Okay, the next issue that we had was with two different words here. They should not sound the same, but when she was saying them, they sounded the same. So we had to talk about what the difference was between these two words. I'm just bringing that up here. Okay, she wanted to say retail, but the way that she was pronouncing it was retell, which means tell again. Listen to the second syllable sound in number 1. Retail. It's that thing that I've been telling you about. This comes up. So in the first conversation we had, that was about a Turkish guy. But this is a Korean lady, and she has the same problem. Everybody has this problem. I mostly work in Mexico with people who speak Spanish. They always have this problem. I can't think of any language learning English that does not have this problem. You have to, when a syllable finishes with a vowel sound and another syllable starts with a vowel sound, you have to push in the middle to separate them. If you don't, it doesn't sound right, and it could be difficult to understand the word. So that we have one syllable, te, and then we have another syllable, eel. You have to put something in the middle to separate them. Retail. You have to, it may be uncomfortable, but you have to put that extra sound in there. If you don't, we run into this problem. She's saying number 1, but it sounds like she's saying number 2. It sounds like retell. The way she says it, it sounds like retell, but it's not retell. You have to put a big push in there. Retail. 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 Okay, our next word is federal. Federal. Those are all short sounds. Federal. Federal. I don't remember why we had that word in there. Okay, next word. So now this is interesting because these are the same problem sounds for the Turkish student. Is also causing problems for the Korean student. I think in general, these sounds are difficult for people learning English to pronounce. So let's go through this word, technology. The first syllable, tech. What do you think about that? Is that short or long? Tech. That's short. What about na? Techna. That's short. What about the next sound? Load. Oh, that's long and big. So it's short, long. Technolo. And the final syllable is also very long. Technology. Techna, short. Low, G. Technology. All right. I don't know. I think the next word, this is a word she always has problems with. And I think it's just difficult for Korean people to combine the R sound with certain other sounds. But let's take a look at how you should pronounce this. I think, well, here, okay, let's start with the first syllable. Per. Is that long or short? Per. That's short. I think the place where we get into trouble, especially for Korean people, maybe for a lot of Asian people, is they want to pronounce the next sound full. So she wants to say performance. Performance. Actually, that sounds kind of British. But if you add that ooh, which you should, I think you should say four. So it's like three sounds. Four. You have to add those extra sounds if you want to pronounce the R. Because if you put a very pure O in front of an R, it becomes very difficult to say the R. I think that's maybe because in the UK, they probably would say full, performance, but then they don't pronounce the R. The only way to pronounce the R is if you make it extra long. O-R, 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 performance, performance. Okay, let's take a look at the next word. And again, I think this might be a Korean problem. She has a very difficult time with pronouncing the J sound. She likes to say something like jeune, something like that. But it starts with a D. If you want to pronounce a J sound, you have to start like you're saying a D. Jur, journal, journal. Okay. The next word pair, I don't remember which word she was saying, but it sounded like the other one. And there are a lot of differences between these two words. Prefer, prefer. What do you think about those vowel sounds? Are they long or short? Prefer. Those are short. Prefer, 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 prefer. Those are very short. But I think Korean people get confused with P's and B's and F's. I'm not very familiar with the Korean language, so I don't know why that confusion exists. But if you want to say a P, you have to give like a big explosion of air. Pr. There's a lot of air. You're spitting out air. Pr. And that happens with the next syllable too. Pair. 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 There has to be a big explosion of air when you say that. And you have to push your lips together. I think an F is a P, but you don't spit out the air. Prefer. You let it go out very slowly. Prefer. But when you say prepare, you're really spitting it out. It's disgusting. And the vowel sound is different. Pair. 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 Prepare. Prepare. Number one is prefer. Very simple sounds. And number two is much more complicated. It's prepare. Okay. We've got the word valuable. Again, this is the same thing. It happens over and over again. If you could just get this into your head and make it a practice to do this, it's something that will really help your pronunciation. We have the word value. We have that syllable lu. And then the next syllable is able. So we have to push in the middle to separate them. So it's very clear that you're saying two things. You're saying lu, able. You join them with a big oo. Luable. Valuable. Valuable. You have to separate them phonetically with an extra sound. Valuable. Valuable. If you don't do that, it sounds like valuable. And maybe people will understand you, maybe not. It depends. Depends on what kind of day they're having, I guess. Okay, long term, I'm not sure why we had that. Let's look at this next word, quantitative. That has a... well, let's just look at the vowel sound at the beginning. Quan. That's ooh-ah. 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 That's very long. Quan. Quan. What about ti? Is that long or short? Quanti. Quante. It's very short. What about tei? Tei. That's very long. It's two sounds. Tei. Quantity. Quantitative. 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 With my accent, I would say quantitative. Like a D sound. Quantitative. Okay, here we come again to the same problem. Everybody has it. It never goes away. You just have to keep practicing. Initial. Well, actually, no, I don't think that shul, you wouldn't really say initial. No, that doesn't happen here. I don't know why we were talking about that one. But let's move on to the next one here, which is cost and coast. If you say number one, it's uwa, cost. The way I'm pronouncing it, it sounds like I'm from New York or New Jersey. That's how they talk. Cost. I'm exaggerating the sounds for you so that you can hear it, because in regular speech it's just cost. But in New York or New Jersey it sounds like cost. It's very exaggerated. Cost. How much does it cost? But I would do it a much lighter version, cost. But it's still wa. It's just softer. Wa. Cost. 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 But number two is ou. Ou. Coast. Coast. Number one is cost. And number two is coast. There's a big difference. Maybe not to you. Maybe you don't hear it. But there is a big difference. Cost, coast. Okay, next word is financially. I don't remember why we put that word. I'm going to skip that. Okay, and again, this next word pair, lap and lab. She was saying lab. She was saying number two. But it sounded like she was saying lap. And P's and B's are very similar. But the only one difference is that when you say lap, you should have to spit the air out. This is a very Korean problem. I don't know what other languages have this problem. But when Koreans are trying to speak English, this is a problem. They get confused with B's and P's and F's. They're all very similar sounds. Or they're physically similar with little differences. So when you say lap, you should be spitting air out. Lap. Lap. And a P is just a B, but with no air. You don't let out any air. Lab. Lab. You let out a little bit. But it's not spitting. Lap. That's number one. Lap. And number two is lab. Try to push the air back in instead of spitting it out. Lab. Lab. Number one is lap. And number two is lab. All right. Well, I think that this is a good place to end for today. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon with my next live English class. And until then, goodbye.